making seatbelt legislation a right issue. I have a very hard time with this since I was giving testimony way back years ago about why we needed safety belt legislation. And quite honestly, it comes from my position as a healthcare person. Seeing what happens to victims of an accident that are not wearing a safety belt, this is not a rights issue. As I said to one of my daughter's friends who had a heated debate, he's from New Hampshire, and his belief in live free or die. And quite honestly, you will die. The chances of dying are a lot greater if you don't have your safety belt on. Is that, you know, when the first car was built, if there was a safety belt in it, and that was the standard operating procedure for you put your safety belt on and you turn the key and, well, crank the engine, then we wouldn't be talking about this. This is being made an issue of rights when this is not a rights issue. This is in the best interest of every driver. It's the way one should drive their car. No one ever argues with the airline stewardess when she tells you to put your buckle up your safety belt in your airplane. I don't understand this issue, and I think it's a disgrace that Jerry Williams can create an issue and inflame the public over something as important as putting a safety belt on.
Jerry who?
That other guy.
All right, Brad, you have 30 seconds.
This is another example of the arrogance and contempt for which the legislature holds the people of the Commonwealth. This district, these three towns, Wilmington, North Reading, and Reading, voted in 1986 60% against requiring mandatory seatbelts. Now, when this bill came to the governor's desk, he sent it back and said, well, let's send it out for a referendum. Let the people decide. Do you want to forego federal funds? Do you not want to do that? And no, the legislature would not do that. I support putting it on the ballot this fall, and I support the repeal. I think it's a fundamental intrusion into my rights. Do I wear a seatbelt? Yes, I do. But I think it's a fundamental intrusion.
You're listening to and watching a debate with the two candidates for state representative to fill the seat vacated by Rob Krikorian. On my left and your right, folks at home, is Brad Jones, Republican candidate for state representative. And on my right, to your left, if you're looking from home, is Sandy Traynor, a Democratic candidate for state representative. League of Women Voters, Reading and North Reading, sponsoring tonight's debate. We appreciate their participation. We're taking questions from the folks at home. If you want to give us a call at 944-4175, you can hear yourself right here. We'll put you on the air, or we'll write down your question, whatever the case may be. We're at the lecture hall at Reading Memorial High School taking questions from our audience as well. Interesting how this one was posed from our audience here. How much experience do you have outside of politics, and is it important for a representative to have that experience? Brad Jones, minute and a half.
Well, I won't pretend to have a lifetime of experience outside of politics. I've spent the vast majority of my adult life in public service. I'm a strong believer in public service. But I think living in North Reading and being in touch with various peoples, as you do as a legislative aide, and as I would as a representative, as a selectman, you understand. What government needs is common sense. And that doesn't, you don't have to be in the private sector, you don't have to be in the public sector to get that. That's just common sense. And I think that, I think in talking to people and people understanding me, they'll understand that I have that, and I will reflect their viewpoints.
30 seconds, Sandy.
Well, obviously, I come from the private sector, and I believe that balance of experience, private and public, is really why I could serve you most effectively. I think bringing the private perspective to the public sector brings reality. The legislature is out of touch, and when you're only insulated in the legislative process, when you've not been out in industries, seeing how companies have difficulty making payroll, seeing how companies, because of legislation that's been passed in workers' comp, in unemployment insurance, have to lay off workers, you don't have a realistic legislator who understands this making decisions for you if they haven't been out there experiencing firsthand what it's like to run a business, and especially a business in the state of Massachusetts.
All right. Yeah, you responded to that first, didn't you?
Yes.
Sorry. Lost it there for just a second. 944-4175 if you'd like to call in with a question. Let's go national here. This is a phoned-in question to both candidates. We'll start with you. I'm sorry?
National.
National.
Is this for
big.
Bill Clinton?
This is big. Bill and Hillary are probably watching this.
Oh, I'm sure.
Do you support President Clinton's health care reform? Yes or no? Sandy.
Oh, well, this is right up my alley. Obviously, I had 27 years of experience in healthcare, so I think that experience prepares me to play a very vital role as healthcare reform rolls out to the state level. Will President Clinton's bill and its 1,300 pages as we know it today be the bill that actually becomes implemented? I doubt it. But the state is going to play a very key role in rolling out what happens in this state, and another good solid reason why you might want a legislator there who really understands the complexity of health care, both from the insurance piece, from the medical provider piece, from the consumer piece. It's a very, very complex issue. There's many competing forces, and with me in the State House, I will do the best I can to make you have the most affordable, accessible health care program possible.
30 seconds, Brad.
The reality is any discussion of health care reform at the state level is premature. Until the President and Congress make a decision, we cannot take any meaningful steps at the state level. It's quite likely, or it's quite possible, the state will have few, if any, decisions to make beyond implementing what comes down from Washington. There may be great decisions to make. But like many of you, I'm hopeful that whatever plan Congress and the President adopt, that we retain the ability to choose our health care providers, and that many of us will not end up paying more in costs for less in services. Beyond this, I think any discussion is premature at this point.
All right, I'm told we have a phone call. Want to do that? All right, let's see who's there. Hello, you're on the air with the candidates tonight.
Yes, I would like to know if they believe in using government funds for abortion.
Use of government funds for abortions is the question. Thank you, ma'am.
My question first.
Your question first, Brad.
I do not support the use of public funds for abortion beyond those instances of rape, incest, or the life of the mother, period.
Sandy.
I think the question really has to be, do you support a woman's right to choose? Because I truly have moved on this question over the years. Anyone who has followed me in this elective process knows that I have really evolved in my position. I believe that a right to make a decision about an abortion is a very personal choice that only a woman can make. And every other maneuvering that's done at a state level or a federal level is really government trying to control a woman's right to choose. So if Brad Jones opposes having government tell him whether or not he puts a seatbelt on, I can't understand why he would not want to support a woman's right to choose and therefore not be involved in any way, shape, or form of having government control that decision.
Thank you very much. All right, another question. Would you vote for or against bills that would, we've discussed this a little bit, but this is more specific, ban the carrying of handguns by anyone under 21 and ban assault weapons? First to you, Sandy.
Well, there are so many laws on the book presently that say you have mandatory sentencing, lists what the sentencings are. So if we really want to get to the issue of gun control and guns used in violent crimes or even being carried into the schools, let's get some of these laws that are presently on the books enforced. I don't, it just baffles me. Is it that, our juvenile system is just so out of control that when kids walk through the metal detectors at school and they're picked up for having a gun, they're out on the street the next day? It's like, what is going on here? There's something wrong with this picture. And don't tell me kids don't know the rules and regs. I was shocked when I read last week about the 3 girls that shot the cab driver in the head down in Florida when it came time to pay their $6 cab fare. The first girl charged with the murder was a 13-year-old. But it later came to find out it was really a 17-year-old who had shot the cab driver. And the 17-year-old knew if the 13-year-old took the blame that there would be no repercussions. Well, that's got to stop. We've got to have enforcement of laws that are already on the books and tell people and kids that we're serious about, you're caught with a gun, you're going to be punished.
Would you like the question repeated, Brad?
No.
All right, go ahead.
I do not support banning 18 to 20-year-olds from being able to possess a firearm. We have to get serious with illegal firearms. Before we take the step of banning firearms for law-abiding, legally licensed gun owners, let's enforce the laws we currently have. This is a disgrace. I was talking to a state police officer a few weeks ago, and I was amazed to hear that only a relative handful of people have received the minimum mandatory 1-year sentence for the Bartley-Fox law. That's a disgrace. If we're not going to enforce the laws that we have now, anything more is simply feel-good, look-good legislation.
All right, you're listening to Candidates Night on cable television, sponsored by the Reading and North Reading Leagues of Women Voters. We appreciate their participation in this. Again, our phone number, if you'd like to call in from home, is 944-4175. We'll put you on the air directly, or we'll take your question in a written form. All right, a question here first to Brad Jones. Would you vote for campaign finance reform that would, 1, ban all gifts and contributions from lobbyists, allow only $100 per PAC, establishing caps on money from all PACs combined? You want to take those one at a time?
Including those three, I'd support all of those three together.
A ban on all gifts and contributions from lobbyists,
Sure.
allowing only $100 per PAC.
Yes.
Establish a cap on money from all PACs combined.
Yes. In fact, you want to expand on a little bit?
Oh, no, there's one more. And eliminate tax credit to business for lobbyist fees.
Yes.
That's pretty simple. Okay. All right, Sandy, you want to take those one at a time?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I also, many of these, except the eliminating the tax credit, are part of Common Cause's campaign financing reform, which I would be very supportive of. But I think just as we see what happens in insurance fraud, I think you always have the human factor filter in. No matter what the laws are, no matter how strict they are, it's really the people who are serving you that find ways oftentimes to circumvent the law. Quite honestly, we see this with Governor Weld bundling his contributions. And the governor said, well, as long as it doesn't break the law, it's okay. Well, I believe a legislator should hold themselves to the highest standard possible, not the standard that's stated in the law.
All right, did you say?
Yeah, I'd like to have the balance of my time back since I only use about 10 seconds to answer the question.
Go ahead, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Okay. I think it's interesting that we're talking about campaign finance, and I think you should look at the candidates in this field. My record will show that I've complied with the current campaign finance disclosure laws in a timely fashion to disclose my receipts and expenditures. And I think that's a record that should be explored by the voters of this district.
All right, let's take another call from home, 944-4175. If you'd like to participate, let's try one right now. Hello, caller, you're on the air with the candidates.
Yes, I'd like to ask the candidates how they feel about regionalization for police and fire. And I'll be listening for this.
All right, thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Regionalization for police and fire. Sandy, you're first, a minute and a half.
Well, if you're looking at it from a cost-effective perspective, it probably would make a lot of sense to regionalize services. But it's a very inflammatory issue because locally everyone wants to resist change and keep things the way it currently is. But I think if you're looking at combining resources and continuing services given a shrinking tax base, it might be a method or a mechanism to use to do that. But obviously this would be a decision the town would have to make. But I think regionalization of services, perhaps not police and fire, but other services would be an area to examine when you're looking at delivering more cost-effective local services.
30 seconds, Brett.
I would not support the regionalization of police and fire services. I think our local police and fire departments do an excellent job, and I think that any regionalization is probably going to impact the response time in emergencies, and that seems to be going the opposite direction of what we need today.
All right, if I could...
Well, wait. if I can have, I took less than my time.
You're gonna start on me,
Let
aren't
me
you?
put a
All right.
qualifier on there. Obviously, that would have to be a part of the decision-making. If there's any impact on the quality of services, then I certainly wouldn't support it. I'm saying as a concept, if one is looking at providing cost-effective services, that is an option one could examine.
If you would, I'd bear with me on this one here. I've 3 different questions, but they all seem